Well, hello everyone. I hope you're having a great day. So, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the new reveals from Nova. Well, specifically the new Ironjawz reveals, because I think I speak for a lot of people that I feel like the Ironjawz have really been a long time coming. I really liked what I had to see, and I think we got a lot of good things coming. So I just want to dive into them just a little bit more. So yeah, okay. So let's just break this down here. So essentially, at the Nova reveal, we got basically the last, well, potentially the last. I mean, I don't really think they're gonna throw any new curveballs at us here, but basically we now seen the rest of the additions to the Ironjawz line, and I say, what a great lineup it is. I've thought for quite a while now that the Ironjawz line of the Orc War Clans book, while good, don't get me wrong, I definitely agree with the consensus is that they're just too limited to what they have. Like they only really have like a handful of kits, and due to like the simple nature of Ironjawz, there's only a certain amount of ways to play them as is. Now, I'm not necessarily, excuse me, saying that this is going to drastically change up their play style, but I do think it's going to give us a lot more toys to go with. And to be perfectly fair, too, I'm actually kind of surprised it took as long as it did to update this line. Like, Ironjawz haven't really seen a major update basically since they were first introduced. Like, that's got to be, like, that was years ago. Like, what was it? What were we going on now? Like, 6-7 years? Like, for an army that basically played as the poster boy for the Grand Alliance destruction, they really didn't get a lot of love. Like, thinking it over, pretty much, honestly, a good deal of destruction didn't really get a lot of love for a long time. I guess the Gloomspite Gits did. Then we had, like, the Cruel Boys. But, Sons of, what I mean is, like, it just kind of seemed like for such an iconic lineup, they just really didn't get a lot of, love for a while. Now, I feel like with these additions, they're finally starting to look like their own thing, finally. Like, I know and I realize that they're technically part of the greater Orc War Clans, but even amongst the Orc War Clans, they were just very, very small aspect of it. And because of this, this makes me really excited for the future on potential new builds for them coming up. So, what's the first thing we're going to talk about? Well, let's start off with the big boy and his little boy who comes with him. We have a brand new named hero, Zogrok Anvil Smasher, and his little squig Luck, I believe it was. I forget. But I don't get me wrong, I like his squig. Yeah, so it looks like we're getting a new named hero. He basically, so judging by the lore, he seems to be kind of like I guess like the equivalent, an Ironjawz equivalent to like a blacksmith. Like it looks like he's one of the ones who makes the weapons from the pig iron that comes from like the gore grunters, and he has his own little pet squig there, and that acts as an anvil. So yeah, he seems like I really like this kit, and especially like that he's a named character that comes with different build options as well. Like you can take him with the sword that's on fire. You can take him with his pliers. Now, I'm wondering though if potentially this might have something to do with like maybe he has alternate builds. Like I'm wondering, like is it just this guy that's coming as the character, or is he also going to double as like a generic new hero, like a generic like Ironjawz blacksmith hero as well, like kind of like how what's a good example? Oh geez, I cannot think of one off the top of my head for some reason. Wow, huh? Well, okay, basically what I mean is he's a named character. Will the kit also have a generic character in there as well? I don't know. I would kind of hope so, because I do feel I do like the idea of Ironjawz getting some more just generic characters in there. I think they do need them, because technically right now on foot they only have like 3, and if you play Age of Sigmar in any real capacity, that's actually not a lot, because many armies have tons of foot heroes. So what does he do? Well, he seems to be kind of like apparently another buff piece, which is kind of like a thing that goes with a lot of Ironjawz heroes, because let's face it, most of their units are already real big good hammers and anvils. So what they need, their heroes, especially their foot heroes, are meant to do is just buff those guys up. And judging by the looks of it, he looks like he has anti-warding abilities, so probably the ability to just turn off wards for enemies, probably. And I wonder what else he might do. Like, could he maybe give armies, like, units more rend? I'm not really sure. I love the sculpt, and I'm really looking forward to what he ends up doing on the tabletop. So yeah, thumbs up for me on this guy. So in addition to him, we're also getting two new Brute units, the Brute Ragers and the Weird Brute Rekkas. So some keen-eyed viewers will probably notice that actually, if you see, like for the Brute Ragers, the middle guy, technically a similar unit was actually part of an Underworld's war band earlier. So I guess we didn't realize that this was actually an early preview for what these guys are. Which also leads me to believe that, as some people have been pointing out, I think these models have actually existed for quite some time. They just didn't release them for whatever reason. Like, I actually feel like I bet these models were probably actually done maybe like a year or two ago. They just didn't release them, which I think, and if that's true, that's really sad, because I feel like Ironjawz have been languishing for quite some time right here. So how these guys kind of look, so they're kind of described as kind of like glass cannons, basically, like and which makes sense if you look at them. They have much less armor but much bigger weapons. So probably they're going to be like, they're probably going to be like relatively fragile. Well, for an Ironjawz anyway, but they're going to hit like absolute trucks, and probably they're going to be super fast too. And the Weird Brute Rekkas, they seem, judging by the sound of it, they look like to basically be the Ironjawz equivalent of Loon Smasher Fanatics. They just hurl into the enemy, do a ton of damage, but you expect to lose them. Now for the record, that's fine for Gloomspite gets, because those guys are small and cheap. Like, Ironjawz generally don't want to lose their guys. So I expect actually these guys to probably actually be like, yeah, they smash into the enemy, but they're expected to live. Like, for example, I expect these guys will probably have like some kind of like ward save, or maybe some way to like keep them alive a lot longer while simultaneously doing a lot of damage. And I expect they'll probably be conditional battle line too, so not exactly sure what it will be. Like, maybe like the Weird Brute specifically apparently have a lot to do with apparently have been described as having a close relationship with the Ironjawz Wizard. I forget what they were specifically called. I think it had something. Was it a Weird Brute? No. It was a Merc Knob. Oh my god, I can't remember. Weird Knob, that's it. Yeah, the Orc Weird Knob. Like, apparently these guys are basically brought into being like this through the workings of a Weird Knob, and they're described as like, chucking up green, like green bile and stuff. So it kind of sounds like it'll be probably similar to like a full frontal unit, where like, again, they run into the enemy, they get hit, but they don't go down, they do tons of damage. So yeah, I think this will be pretty good. Now, before you're probably wondering, well, isn't that basically what Brutes do? Not exactly. See, Brutes they do lots of damage, but they also function. They function also as like an anvil and an offensive. And while they by offensive I mean they're a line breaker as well. But while Brutes are good at it, I have a feeling these guys are going to be way better at it, but probably come in smaller numbers. So you could probably, if these become battle line, you can go even more elite with Ironjawz, which I think is good too, because again, Ironjawz are really short on battle line options, even conditional battle line options. So more the merrier there, I say. And honestly, I just love the models too. Like there's just so much personality to it, and especially the Weird Brute Rekkas. They have that. They're kind of showing that more sinister aspect of orcs. Like, sometimes with orcs, I kind of feel like they kind of play up their silliness factor too much, and I feel like this kind of like gives them more like that more intimidating presence that they should really be giving. Like, imagine, for example, if a Rager or a Weird Brute was running at you, you would definitely be scared, especially that guy in the middle there at the top with the mace. Now, the Ardbore side of things actually kind of surprised me. Like, I actually didn't expect GW to update this kit. Though, to be fair, though, I actually do understand why they did it, though, because with Old World coming back, GW really seems to be adamant to, like, put those older Warhammer models back in the old world. Like, so all those black orcs, who are now Ardboys, they're gonna. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that this way they can introduce new models in Age of Sigmar, but keep selling the older, outdated models for a new system. Like, again, the businessman wheels are turning in my head right here. Now, maybe that's not the reason, but I guarantee that's a significant aspect of why they did this. So anyway, yeah. So the Ardboy boss actually surprised me quite a bit, because I wasn't actually expecting GW to actually give a hero for the Ardboy side of the army. So essentially how it's kind of working is that I think how it's supposed to be is that while yes he's an Ironjawz, he's real brutish, he loves Gork, he's a little more cunning about it than your average Ironjawz. So I think this was probably done to give the Ironjawz a little bit more of their own independent, cunning, Morkish side. So they're not so completely dependent, like narratively speaking, that way they're not so completely dependent on, let's say, the Cruel Boys for this, because Orc war clans, even though they can function, like all three factions can function together, each one is technically its own separate army. Like, it's kind of, each one's treated as a separate army. So by giving like a more cunning type of foot hero, this means that Ironjawz you can be more sneaky with Ironjawz, like, narratively speaking, without having to include any Cruel Boys if you don't want to. And also giving those people who want to go all Ardboys, more options. So because now you don't just have, like, just a battle line option, now you actually have heroes as well. And also a much more updated take on Ardboys in general. I think, in my opinion, I think these are really good too. One thing I've definitely noticed is that I didn't think Ironjawz in general needed more big clubs. I think they did. I think it was a good idea to give them more spears, because again, the idea with these guys is kind of like, I think the idea what they're going with Ardboys now is just, they're not technically Ironjawz, but so they can't, like, because remember in the lore, Ardboys are technically not Ironjawz. They are regular orcs who just follow along with the Ironjawz in the hopes that they'll impress them enough that they'll let them into their ranks. For example, the equivalent to this is, think of Cruel Boys and Hobgrot Slitters. Like, Hobgrots, they fight alongside Cruel Boys, but they're not actually Cruel Boys. They're more like they're basically a whole different, subspecies of Orc or Grot or whatever they are. So essentially it's the same situation. They're fighting alongside Ironjawz, but they're not actually Ironjawz. So with this in mind, I think narratively speaking, GW is pushing more the idea that, these guys are not just mini Ironjawz, they're fighting with a more cunning aspect to them. Like, Ironjawz, like, for example, Brutes and Mock, like, Gore Gruntas, they just run up and just smash the enemy as hard as they can. These guys, they're a little bit more disciplined about it, a little bit more cunning about it, They use shields and spears, not just bigger clubs. Like, now, not to saying that they can't smash really hard. I think they're just going to be just slightly more smarter about it, which I think is good too, because again, it's giving the army more options. Like, again, one big complaint about Ironjawz is that the army can look way too similar. Like, Ardboys before, they just basically looked like baby brutes. They just, in a lot of ways, they were just tinier brutes that just basically did the same thing. But now there's definitely a more of a visual differentiation with them. So I think this is a really good idea, and I think it opens up a lot of more flavor too for the army. And of course, pretty much everyone and their grandmother has heard about the Maw Grunter now. Yeah, like, everyone's loving big pig energy right here, and so am I. Like, yeah, this guy, honestly, I think easily takes the cake when it comes to modeling right here. So it's a new big monster, which is described pretty much like what the Ironjawz equivalent of a chariot is. It's not actually a chariot. It's just three orcs riding a giant pig, which is beautifully in character for the sub-faction. So how this is kind of working, from how I would think about it, it's very similar to how I think Beast Claw Raiders work, in that, you know, it's going to be one kit, but then multiple ways to build that kit. So there's apparently going to be a character option for it. There's going to be a generic hero version for it, and then there's just going to be a generic monster. So probably similar to like with the Beast Claw Raiders. You know, you have the Frost Lord on Stonehorn, but you can also have just two generic guys on a Stonehorn, which I think is probably going to be like this. Now, my opinion is going to be there's going to be one for a unique hero. I think this is the unique hero, and then there's gonna be a one for just a generic hero, which is probably gonna be a different head swap, and then there's probably gonna be an option for like maybe just two guys riding on top directing that thing. And my also opinion, and I actually, now this has not been confirmed, but at least not to my knowledge, maybe I forgot, but I think there's going to be an option to run these guys as battle lines. So probably if you take the generic hero version, you can take just the monster versions as battle line, and that way you can just take a whole army of giant pigs, and then take Maw Gruntas, and then bring a bunch of Gore Gruntas, smaller pigs, and then just have like just an all pig army. But more likely what's going to happen is, if that's true, you're probably just going to have like these guys along with Maw Crushes, you know, like their big green cabbages, and just go all monster, which again I think is a great idea, because the ability to go all monster, once again, more options. And I think, like, more options for constructing the army, which I think is a great idea, too. And I think, as a lot of people point out online, it's heavily implied that these guys are going to be another Ironjawz answer to hordes, like horde clearing. Like, I think they're probably going to have, like, some kind of rule for clearing hordes, and I think that's a good thing, because a lot of people point out Ironjawz can sometimes have trouble with being overwhelmed, especially on objectives, and I think this is going to be, I think this could, some more horde clearing options will be good for the army overall. So my thoughts overall, I think it's looking really good. Like, I think all the different models look great. The big pig is as impressive as ever, and I'm actually really looking forward to some Ironjawz Monster Mash that just isn't just spamming Maw Crushes. Yeah, no, it's looking pretty good too. So yeah, so like basically what these models are gonna offer Ironjawz is, now you can go more elite with more foot hammer units, like with the Rages and the weird Rekka guys. You can probably go all Ardboys if you want, with the new Ardboy Big Boss and all the new Ardboy models, and probably you can also go all monster with the new Big Pig options. Like, again, it's just really filling the army out more than it really, to a point where it actually more stands on its own 2 feet. And what I think this really bodes well for the future, especially for some other factions. For example, I feel like they need, like, other armies that need this kind of help are things like the Sons of Bahamut. I think they need a couple more options in there. The Fire Slayers, I think they need some more options that just aren't more foot heroes. You know, there's like, I just feel like if this is how they fill out these smaller factions, I'm all for it. I think the future is looking pretty bright overall, and I honestly can't wait. And I think they also did the right thing, releasing these rules inevitably for free, because I think it just would have been just too much to just demand people have to pay the full price for the new narrative book that's coming out, the new Dawnbringer narrative book. So I think that was really nice of them to release these as a PDF. Overall, good showing, GW. You're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good on your releases, especially for rules. So yeah, I can't wait to see it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope the same as you. I'm really looking forward to the rules release when these comes out. Have a great day.